Okay, this is my second video on this book. Really, what a cracking book it is. Salvation is from the Jews, written by a chap who grew up Jewish, very much involved in the synagogue, and also in studying directly under a rabbi who taught him Hasidic mysticism and deep interior Jewish spirituality and prayer. Roy H. Schumann. A beautiful book. I must say it's one of the best books I've read for a while. Very, very helpful. If you've taken, I would say, a nasty dose of some of the stuff on YouTube by the likes of Rabbi Tobias Singer. I certainly took a full dose over the Christmas, and it didn't do my faith much good. And on hindsight, an awful lot of the assertions need fact checking. Well, this is the very book to fact check a lot of what Rabbi Tobias Singer and others come out with. This is the best of its kind that I've seen in a long while. He'll go into huge detail of the Talmud, of which he's got living and contextual knowledge of, the scriptures, the Tanakh, as well as the New Testament, of course, other Jewish writings, both at the time of Jesus and of the Talmudic era, and after. A lot of the misconceptions that are out there, like, oh, Jesus can't be the Messiah because the world didn't become paradise when he came, and all these things he describes, he explains in great detail, quite convincingly, I think. Right, one of his assertions is that most of the ideas of people who say this, are coming from the Talmud, whereby the authors of the Talmud, writing from 200 A.D. to about 600 A.D., they basically mix up everything from the coming of Messiah to then the world to come. So the Olam Chava, they conflate with the coming of Messiah as well as the end of the age. So it's ambiguous, to say the least, and maybe elements of the Tanakh are as well at times. From a prophetic standpoint, of course, 700 years can seem like a minute or a day. 1,000 years are like a single day to the Lord. He speaks of the coming of the two messiahs that are commonly referenced in the Talmudic literature. The coming of Bar Joseph, the son of Joseph. And isn't that strange when Jesus is the son of Joseph? And also the Messiah, Mashiach ben David. Now, the Ben Joseph was meant to suffer at the hands of his enemies. And he looks at this and how the Talmudic authors talk about Zechariah 12:1, which I'd heard Rabbi Tobias Singer say that's nothing to do with Messiah. The Talmud has something else to say. And also Isaiah 53, the suffering servant of Hashem. He'll also show, and I'm only halfway through this book, but he'll also show how there's 3 ages of the world that the Talmudic writers spoke of. There's the life of chaos after Adam and Eve. So there's 2,000 years of chaos after the fall, before the Torah. And then there's 2,000 years of Torah, and that would be from Moses, I suppose, up to, and then you have 2,000 years of Messiah, and then the end of the age, the return of the Messiah, or the Olam Haba. And so there's 6,000 years already on the clock as we await not for the coming of Messiah according to the Talmudic authors, but rather for the end of the age. So, according to this author, kind of like messianic expectations of like the Messiah hasn't come yet is anachronical according to the oral Torah, which Orthodox Jews are obliged to accept, to receive as secondary only to the Torah. But the fulfillment of prophecies like the lion sitting down with the lamb and such like from Isaiah, he says this happens, this is because we conflate the end of the age with the coming of Messiah, but actually the Talmudic authors were clear. The Messiah comes first, 2,000 years and approximately, and then there will be the end of the age, the fulfillment of all things, the new heavens and the new earth. For this author, conversion isn't really the proper word. He just sees it as coming into the fullness of his Jewish faith by embracing the Catholic faith and Jesus Christ as his Messiah. He explores the idea in quite some detail and very convincingly. Are Jews expected to adhere still to the law of Moses? Are the Gentiles? And what of this new covenant? What is it in reality in the age of Messiah? It really is a great book that leads to prayer and a great antidote from the scathing attacks on Christianity coming from YouTube in this day and age, from Messianic Judaism in some quarters, not all quarters, from Tovia Singer's channel. And I admire the guy. I admire the guy's preparation, intelligence, and knowledge, and all the rest of it. But it is, for me, very reassuring and balancing to actually see what another perspective, a chap who very much coming from the Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish background, who embraced the Catholic faith, a different perspective. And one can see there's been a lot of cherry picking to present a case of ridiculing Jesus Christ and his being the Messiah. So a deep and fascinating book that I definitely recommend. Excuse my voice, I've got a cold at the moment.